Today, I'm going to try and explain to you and give you my best level understanding, analyzing some of the possible outcomes out of this elective conference that is taking place in December. The EFF Elective Conference, otherwise known as the National People's Assembly, which is taking place for the third time, is taking place this December 2024. And on the 15th of December, it will be the last day of the conference. And by that day, we will know who are the elected top 6 members that will serve in the highest decision-making body of the EFF organization or political party. And of course, this raises the question of whether or not Julius Malema will come back or return as the president of the EFF. This is after a lot of developments have unfolded after May 2024 elections and looking at the election results themselves. A lot of things have unfolded in the party, and I've been talking to a lot of EFF members and asking them, what is your take on what is happening in the EFF right now? And the answer is the same. We are being tested. We are being tested as the EFF, and we will see if we can pass the stage. Then we will know that the EFF is the organization of our people and is the right organization and the vehicle to fight economic freedom, the struggle of economic freedom in South Africa and the African continent, because you will remember that EFF does not see itself only as a political party that should exist in South Africa. It sees itself as a political party also that should be out there in other countries in the African continent. So in this podcast today, we are going to be unpacking that, and I hope that it gives you a better understanding and a little bit of view into the internal politics within the EFF. And if you're new on this podcast, and if you're seeing this face for the very first time, my name is Elvis Mulifimov, and this is Break It Down. The name of my podcast is Break It Down with Elvis Mulifimov. And I don't only sit by myself and speak to you on a normal basis. I also interview other individuals. I invite actually other individuals that are passionate to engage and break down and give more context on the following themes. Number 1, religion, history, politics, and worldviews. And number 2, spirituality, self-mastery, and philosophy. Number 3, the life of arts and culture. And then number 3, money, technology, and biological science. So you can see it's a whole pack. It's a whole package of what we cover in this podcast. And if you're one of the individuals that are really passionate to break down some of these themes that I've just highlighted, then you're welcome on the show. Without wasting time, let's get to it. If you're new on this channel, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more content so that you don't miss any episode. So we're going to start backtracking before the elections. What really happened? Jacob Zuma calls a meeting and say, I'm looking for political parties that are against what's happening right now, that wants to see South Africa moving forward, that wants to liberate and emancipate the black body, and that are agreeing with him in terms of his ideology, and that are against white monopoly capital. And EFF has been known as the political party that is against white people, that is not necessarily from a racial or racism point of view, but from a systematic point of view, to say the means of production, the minerals, the corporate South Africa, the business in this country is not in the hands of black people. Ultimately, the economy is not in the hands of white people. So the EFF has been known to be that party that is very, very vocal when it comes to issues like that. So he called the EFF, he called ATM, he called UDM, he called PAC, he called a whole lot of political parties and said, guys, we need to come together, because if you're not aware of what is happening right now, white people are coming together, they're funding these political parties. I mean, if you want, you can go to the IEC. That is a fact. I've done a video in this podcast or in this channel where I was explaining, giving figures, direct figures of how much the Oppenheimers gave Action SA, the DA, and also the IFP. So that on its own shows that Jacob Zuma was actually correct in saying that the white people or white monopoly capital is coming together and is ganging up together to make sure that their wealth doesn't get affected and there's no threat. They make sure that they fund the ANC, they fund the DA, they fund any political party that can align with their mandate. And Jacob Zuma was saying, we need political parties that are against that. And the EFF is one of those political parties amongst others. And so they called all those political parties, but unfortunately, that could not produce a new political party. And because the EFF, in its understanding, saw that if we want to do this, we have to do this under the vehicle of the EFF. And the EFF president, Julius Malema, recently said that when they proposed that to Jacob Zuma's answer was, that cannot happen because old people will never vote for the EFF. Old people will never vote for the EFF. That will never happen. So we need a new progressive front, aka a new political party, and it doesn't seem like EFF and Jacob Zuma were aligning. And you will remember their relationship is really hostile. I mean, what they did to Jacob Zuma in his tenure as the president, they made sure that it was met with disruption in parliament, in the media, everywhere. When they were mentioning Jacob Zuma's name, it was not really coming out in a very proper way. It was always attack, so that affected their relationship, and that as a result meant that that progressive front cannot happen. But they said, what, we are not agreeing right now, but let's try and see if we can have this conversation post elections, and let's see if we can agree on each other and see if we can work together. When the election results came, it doesn't seem like those conversations were succeeding in terms of coming together and saying where we left off. Can we pick up where we left off? So that's when we saw new developments now. Floyd Shivambu moving and saying, as the first person taking that move and saying, I'm making a revolutionary move. It's not a personal move. It's a revolutionary move. I'm going to join the MK party and I'm going to contribute to the MK party. He started as the National People's, I wanted to say National People's Assembly, which is what the EFF calls its Congress, its elective conference, the one that we are about to talk about that is coming up in December on the 15th. He said, I'm going to join the Mkonto Wesizwe party and I'm going to contribute as the national organizer. Right now they have, it's not an election, they have appointed him as the Secretary General, after serving as the national organizer for a couple of months. But now, when he left the organization, that on his own raised a lot of questions surrounding Julius Malema, surrounding his relationship with Julius Malema, because you would remember, this is the co-founder of the organization. This is the person who has contributed to the organization, not only politically, but also strategically, intellectually, and mentally. Because you remember, Floyd is a strategist. Floyd has contributed so much in terms of the founding documents of the EFF. And so him moving to the MK party, it is believed that it is actually a right move for him by a lot of people. Even those, some of those that are in the EFF are saying that he's actually going to add so much value because he's well knowledgeable when it comes to dealing with organizations that are in the infant stage. He's able to, organize it very properly. You look at the reasons why MK party is saying they're not going to Congress, because the organization itself, it is still in its infant stage, and so therefore it is very vulnerable to lobbying, to factionalism, to people buying votes and all of that. But they need to build the base, they need to build the capacity first, and then they will go to the elective conference. So right now what they are doing is they are appointing leaders based on, I guess, their expertise and I don't know, and many other reasons that they might have in terms of how they elect or appoint people that are serving in those positions of leadership. But after that, we saw a whole lot of people. We saw other members in the executive leadership of the EFF. And then finally, we saw Dalimpofu saying, I'm also leaving. But it was obvious because he's been the lawyer of Jacob Zuma since this whole thing of attacking Jacob Zuma started. So those are the developments. But those developments did not only end by just saying, oh, you're leaving to MK party, okay, that's it. It raised a lot of questions on the ground the structures of the EFF, the branches of the EFF, started questioning whether or not the leadership of Julius Malema as the president of the party is actually one thing that is leading to these members leaving the organization, and therefore will affect the organization. I've been speaking to a lot of EFF members and asking them, how do you guys feel about this unfoldings of, within the EFF? How do you guys feel about people leaving the organization? How do you feel about the co-founder of the organization, the deputy president, leaving to join the MK party? What is your view? And their answer is the same. All of them, their answer is the same, is that we are being tested. The EFF is being tested. The EFF is going through a time which in history will be recorded as a time that the EFF proven itself that indeed they are economic freedom fighters of this country and the African continent, or they were just another party that was overtaken by the MK party. So it's going through a testing time, but this elective conference is very important because it is going to define EFF, and it is going to renew the EFF, I guess, to see what is their direction moving forward. So the possible outcomes that we are looking at is that Julius Malema is more likely to return as the president of the EFF. And I'll tell you why. My reasoning behind that is that it's not the ordinary members that vote at the elective conference. You must also know it's the branches. So for instance, if we are a branch in a particular area, we have our structures, we have our leadership that is going to represent us in the conference. It's not necessarily us who's going to be there casting the vote, even though we sit down with the leadership structure of our branches to say, guys, we want Julius Malema to become the president and to continue, or we want him out. And then the branch leader or the branch leaders will go to the conference representing that branch, and they will decide on the vote, right? But this is where the whole vote rigging takes place. This is why you see Cyril Ramaphosa continues to be investigated and continues to be accused that he bought votes during the time that he became the president of the ANC. Because it's so much easy. You don't need to buy the rest of the members that are on the ground. You just need to buy the branch leaders. And I'm not saying EFF President Julius Malema is buying votes, by the way, but I'm just saying it's much more possible if he wants to retain that position as the president. The method is very easy. Deal with the branches, deal with the branch leadership, capture them. But we know it's not all the branches that can be bought, and we know it's not all branches that side with Julius Malema. Some of them have said it out there that we actually want a different feel, a different person to lead this organization. So that is really going to depend on what is the decision of the branch leaders. But you could look at the possibilities that he might not return as the president of the EFF. But the question is, who's going to contest him? Who's going to contest this position? Is Ndlozi going to contest this position? Well, that for me is my analysis. I think actually the person who can stand against him is Ndlozi. That's the only person, because the deputy president is gone. You know, the person that somehow had the chances of contesting, not becoming, just contesting, is gone. So who's left there? Maybe he might go for a deputy president. Maybe he might go for president directly. But he's been quiet, and a lot of speculations have been made. We know that. But my thing is, it's going to be interesting. And what we can expect out of this elective conference is nothing but more and more and more factionalism growing up inside the EFF. But most definitely, I'm leaning towards the idea that Julius Malema is going to come back as the president. It's going to upset a lot of people. It's really going to upset a lot of people. He's going nowhere. I don't think he's going nowhere. Even if Ndlozi decide to compete with him or try to be in the same position and contest for the position of the presidency. The presidency. I don't think he will stand a chance. What he stands a chance is the position of the deputy president. That for sure I know that he has a chance of actually making it, because the branches actually want him and they've been wanting him for so many years. The problem is that Julius Malema has been pushing for Floyd Shivambu and suppressing Undlozi, Dr. Ndlozi, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our podcast for this episode, and I'd love to just hear your thoughts in the comment section, for you to just be able to give me a little bit of your view and what do you think about this matter that we are discussing today. Otherwise, if you are new on this podcast, as I said, this podcast, the name of my podcast is Elvis Mulifimov. It's Break It Down with Elvis Mulifimov, and I don't sit here alone. I've got individuals that are very, very passionate to break down some of the topics that we cover in this podcast. And I have to be really, really, really clear on these themes, because at some point you'll see me touching on a different subject and then you feel like, you've deviated. But no, we've got 4 main themes that we cover: religion, history, politics, and worldviews. That's 1. Number 2, spirituality, self-mastery, and and philosophy. The life of arts and culture. That's number 3. Money, technology, and biological science. That's number 4. So those are the themes that we cover in this channel, and we're hoping to engage also with other individuals. So if you are an individual that is also interested in coming into this podcast and chatting to me about all of these issues, you're welcome to actually message us and tell us, what would you like to discuss, But otherwise, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for making it up until this far. Cheers.